Set a goal. You guys have a goal for the next 3 years. Maybe it's a trip you plan. Maybe it's redoing a route.
If you're with a spendaholic, if you can make it till the end of the month without them overspending, that's the goal right there. Forget goals 3 years down the road. Goals 3 years down the road are for people who have the ability to look way ahead. Those are typically reserved for your savers, not your spenders.
I'm more of a saver and paying off debt, whereas my wife is more of a spender.
What do we already know the problem is, folks? What do the marriage statistics say about compatibility when one is a saver and the other is a spender? What are the odds of a marriage not working? And perhaps not just on that front, simply the money front, but compound it with other areas. And it's my personal experience being married and divorced that the money front does tend to trickle into other areas of the relationship as well.
As soon as it comes in an account, goes away. If I try to pay off debt, it builds back up because she just spends the money that I already pay off. Now
I feel for this guy. I was in a relationship once. I won't say what relationship, but one of my past relationships. I was in the same situation. I would try so hard to save money. And it seemed like as much as I saved, my partner, boyfriend at the time, would spend it. It is a really hopeless and sinking feeling and even situation when there are two extremes in how you deal with money, and if a compromise cannot be agreed upon. And I think that compromise is going to depend upon how extreme the two differences are. If you're spending $300 a month on miscellaneous, and I'd rather have you only spend, say, $150 a month. Can we perhaps compromise and maybe have you drop to $200 or something? But if you're spending, let's just say, $500 a month on miscellaneous, and I want only $100, you're talking a big divide. I really think it depends upon how big the divide is between what each person sees as overspending. The wider that divide is, it is my experience, the less likely the relationship is going to work out. And the more likely it's going to interfere in other parts of the relationship.
I'm just trying to figure out how can I fight this to keep that from happening.
I'll tell you what I used to do when I was in a past relationship that shall remain unnamed. I used to the best of my ability, I would try to build a savings account. I was with someone who had no interest in a savings account, like not even a little bit. I always wanted some sort of nest egg. And I've talked about it on this channel before. At your core, at your very core, you know what type of money person you are. You really do. If you're saver, if you're spendthrift. You may not want to admit it, but you know. And I'll tell you, when I was in a relationship with a spender, all right, I would try so hard to save money. And then I would release that money when I felt like the bills got too high. Oh man, we owe $200 to this person. We owe $1,000 on this. And I'm looking at myself and my past, and I did in my 20s, I had a credit card debt spending problem. That was in my 20s. But I can tell you, after that first bankruptcy at about the age of 24, 25, I never went back to a major credit card problem again. I can honestly tell you I learned. The problem is I was with a partner that wasn't interested in saving. Okay? I want you to imagine being with someone in a relationship and sitting in the carport and having that person say to you, quote, "We have the nicest cars on the block." I want you to imagine this. And I will not say what relationship because that's not important. It's just a past relationship. "We have the nicest cars on the block." That's what your boyfriend says to you. Meanwhile, you realize you've gotten yourself into a $500 a month car payment your household cannot afford. A $500 a month car payment that you had no say as to whether or not you wanted to have that as part of your household debt. A $500 a month car payment that was going to last for, I think, a minimum of 4, 5, 6 years. Okay? When we talk about, someone who is at, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the divide. How big apart is the divide? If the divide is just, could you cut down, maybe your, clothing budget by, $100, $200, we can compromise that. When you pull up with a $500 a month car payment, well, your partners at work had no idea you were getting it, and you say, here, we're now in debt to $500. That's what I'm talking about. And it could even be half of that. And that's what I'm talking about. And so I would try so hard to save money. I would try to tuck it away. Not for me, for us. Because I always knew at some point, we're going to have little emergencies. And I was able to, when I was in this relationship, I was able to save us from time to time. And he would always be like, where'd all this money come from? How'd you all of a sudden have this money? Because I was always trying to save something, because I knew we had no safety net. I had to hide and create a safety net. That's stupid when you think about it. You have to hide a savings account from your significant because your significant isn't interested in saving. Your significant is not interested in saving. Never once in any of my past relationships have I ever discussed savings. But yet I've always known that saving was important. I've always known. This is why I tell you, if I were not single today, I seriously doubt I would be debt free. As a matter of fact, I don't seriously doubt it. I already know I wouldn't be. It wouldn't even be on the table. All right. So the bigger the divide, the less likely I think the relationship is to work. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting knowing that you need a savings account. And it's exhausting being with someone who just has no interest in it. And some people just don't. They're not interested in it. They're not interested in a savings account.
It's a great question, Brandon. I'll just say a couple things from what you just said. Just to point out, it felt like a lot of she, me, separate pages. And then your last question, even, what can I do? How can I fight this?
How can I fight my wife?
Yeah, no.
And that's exactly how it feels like. Because again, if the divide is large between how you view money, you're not just stepping over pebbles. You're stepping over lakes, oceans, okay? When the divide is large, yeah. Which is why marriages break up over money. Relationships, married or not, break up over money. And like I said, it filters into other aspects of your life.
I know what you mean, Brenda. I know what you mean. But your language, it says a lot. You're in a tough spot. You're frustrated. She's probably frustrated. You guys are on.
No. You know what my experience is? The spender is typically not frustrated. I'm giving you my life experience. My experience in every relationship I've ever had, because call me luck of the draw, but I've typically have been with spenders. I've been with people who are concerned about image, yada, yada, yada. Okay, whatever. My experience is the spender is not the one that's frustrated. It's the saver. Because the saver is the person looking down the road. The saver is the one going, are we going to have the things that we need for retirement? Are we going to have the things we need for future emergencies? Okay. I've already, as you know, on this channel, I've already started planning my HVAC repair. Yeah, my HVAC repair, which, knock on wood, I don't need it for another, several years. But I know at some point it's going to happen. I'm going to need about 10 grand. I've already started planning for it. A spender is not stressed out over it. So to the lovely Rachel Cruz, I have to respectfully disagree. The spenders, in my experience, are rarely the ones who are stressed out. It's the savers who are stressed out.
Totally separate pages. So the goal here obviously is to become one on this. So my question would be, number one, what does she say to you in response to spending? Does she just do it and there's no communication? Are you guys fighting about it, talking about it? Like what else is going on?
So we do talk about it, but it's more of after the fact. When she spends, I look at the account and see that she spent. We tried talking about saving and everything. We even looked at the Dave Ramsey program, and she didn't seem too interested in it.
They typically aren't. Spenders are not interested in financial programs. Spenders are not interested in having heartfelt discussions on what can we do to further our, financial future. They tend to be immediate gratification people. The spenders are the ones who will drop, $50 on a single meal without thinking about it. The savers like me are going, okay, if I go to Culver's, might be able to get a hamburger for $10, okay? Or better yet, if I just stay home, make myself a little salad, some chicken wings, and some rice, I can eat for even cheaper than that. Spenders are typically not interested in having heartfelt discussions because part of what involves spending is impulse buying, impulsive purchase, acting like a kid in a candy store. That to me is what so many spenders are. And if you're a saver and you're watching this happen, it's hard to have much feeling of romantic involvement and all that. It really kills the mood for me, at least it really does. It's like I just can't get romantically interested in someone who's going to spend. I tried. It doesn't work. We're just to our philosophies, our viewpoints about money. When they're just too different, it doesn't work. And trying to convince a spender that they should save when that's not in their DNA makeup, how much energy are you gonna spend on that?
She knows that we are in debt a little bit, and I've already had to pull a loan out of my retirement to help pay for that.
That's a spending problem. That's a spending addiction problem. That's a spending problem. That's an out of control problem.
To pay off the credit card loan, but even though we paid one section of it off, she just keeps adding on to it.
Does she give you a reason why? Is it is it like groceries, or is she just like frivolously spending?
Just frivolously spending.
She might have an impulsive shopping problem. When you start pulling out of retirement accounts to pay off the debt. And here's the thing, what is it? You'll hear people say, well, we pulled money out of one account. What is it? We took a HELOC. And I think this happened on a call not too long ago. They took a HELOC to pay off the debt. But what people understand is you never actually paid off the debt. You just transferred the debt. That's all that was about a week or so ago. That's all the lady did. But people mistakenly say we paid off the debt. Unless it's new money coming in that does no harm to the current budget. You're not having to pull it out of retirement account. Okay. You're not having to, what is it? Pull from a HELOC. You're not borrowing from one credit card to pay another. Okay. When it's actual new money coming in, then you're paying off debt.
Groceries I would get. I completely understand that.
Yep.
It's just like clothes, makeup, stuff like that.
What?
Yeah. And if she doesn't have a shopping addiction, then perhaps she's just selfish. I would have to know a lot more about it to know if she had a shopping addiction or she's just, she just likes to shop. You can have you can enjoy shopping without being a shopaholic per se.
What else are you not on the same page? There's something else going on here.
What did I say? Snaps for me. And they better not tell him to just go and work more hours. Because if you're with a spendaholic, that's not going to solve the problem. As a matter of fact, you going and working more hours, all right, could possibly stress out the relationship because now you're gone even more. And the more money you bring in, the more she's going to, say it with me, spend.
That's pretty much it, to be honest.
How long have you...
Hold on, I forgot what the question was. Let me back that up. Hold on.
What else are you not on the same page?
Okay, there we go.
There's something else going on here.
That's pretty much it, to be honest.
How long have you all been married?
We've been married 4.5 years, and then we've been together for 8.
I'm having a hard time buying that everything, y'all are in sync together. you're making future plans, you're all on the same page.
They're not on the same page. And I wonder if she works.
Except that when you say, hey, I'm really scared about our debt and I'm really scared about our future trajectory, she's like, I hear you. But check out these shoes.
Before John goes in, sorry for interrupting, John, but I have to say my piece. There's something in past relationships I've also come to discover about money. It's just my experience. Use it as you wish. When somebody is done and over with a relationship, when there's no real emotional attachment to your spouse, guess what tends to happen? There tends to be an I don't care attitude about the money. Yeah. There tends to be a lot of that. To me, that is a sign that a relationship is broken. Not breaking, not going to break. The relationship's broken. I can tell you the relationship that dealt with the vehicle when the boyfriend I was dating at the time appeared with a $500 a month car payment after going in supposedly to get a $300 part. That was the plan. Okay. Boyfriend go get $300 part, and he comes back literally with a $500 car because we lived together. Okay. And I was blown away. Like, how could you do something like that to our household budget? Okay. Because we lived together. And perhaps not surprisingly, a few months later, the relationship was over. Something I've learned is when somebody is checked out of a relationship, I don't care if it's a marriage, I don't care if it's dating. When someone is checked out of a relationship, one of the signs that I experienced is they don't really care about the budget anymore. They're already checked out. They've moved on mentally. Where they've moved on to, not your concern, not my concern, but they've moved on. And the checking out financially is just one of the signs that I saw. Of course, there were a crap load of signs before then, which, I ignored and in denial over all of that stuff. But I can tell you, as far as the money part, one of the signs that I saw was when someone's checked out emotionally, that's the way they treat the money, especially if there's a shift or a change in the way they treat the money. But in my case, our entire relationship, there was pretty much, we never sat and had a financial conversation, ever. Okay? That was definitely a sign that he was already checked out. In other words, it was easy to spend $500 a month on a vehicle without consulting me because he was already checked out of the relationship. It just took me a while to realize he was.
That can't be that way.
The only other thing I can think of, it's not between me and her, but about a year ago, she was diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks that has something to do with it.
It may, but hopefully she's not going to use it as a crutch.
I don't know.
Okay.
She does see a counselor and everything for that.
It may, and there's a possibility, it may have triggered something that was already in her. In other words, he may have already, it's his wife, so clearly they're married. Okay. He may have married a spending addict, and possibly, she wasn't even aware how much of a spending addict she was. And it could be in the early phase of the relationship. They've been together a long time, but it could have been in the early phase of the relationship. It was easier to hide. There wasn't the stress of kids and, she's your wife, yada, yada. But now that stress is, there's a child, there's a wife. Now the same habits perhaps that she's had all along are now magnified. And it's possible that having the child triggered it or helped magnify it. In other words, this may be a problem that's been around all along, but it was easy for him to dismiss because there wasn't a baby involved and they weren't yet married. But now that they are married and there's a baby involved, it's now becoming like, oh my goodness, this is what you do.
Have you ever gone with her?
I did in the beginning. because her counselor wanted me there. Now, I go to my own counselor for other problems that I had with work, but it kind of trickles into personal life as well.
There's an emotional detachment. I sense that in him. I sense in him that he's been dealing with this for a while and that he's tired. I told you at 56, okay, knowing what I know today, I wouldn't battle this type of relationship. Easier said than done.
Yeah, it doesn't trickle in. It's the same river. And
Right.
I'll just echo what Rachel said. Just listening to your language, you have a really remarkable roommate.
What? You have a remarkable roommate. She's shopping him into depression.
But y'all see your own counselors, you do your own budgets, you have your own dreams for your own.
Oh, I think what he's saying is you have a roommate. Okay, I was like, oh, come on, please, John. Now I don't feel safe. Okay, I see what he's saying. Okay, I take that back. Swim back. So by swimming back. Okay, now I get what he's saying. Yeah, I sense, and I'm no PhD counselor, I sense that he is somewhat emotionally withdrawn from the relationship. And if he's emotionally withdrawn from the relationship, guess what? She probably is too.
Own individual futures, and you have not built a life together.
And I don't know if it's possible to build it when it hits a certain stage of disconnect.
And
Okay.
so I get that if, I've sat with a number of women who experience postpartum that feel completely alone and their husbands don't have the tools or the insights or even the desire to reach across. It's a mess. What you've got to do is go first, Brandon, and be vulnerable and say, I'm worried about our marriage. I love you, and I'm not doing a good job of connecting. I'm not doing a good job of getting on our same page. And so
And neither is she. But I think I understand the approach he's taking. He's trying not to come across as attacking her. Instead, one of the strategies of diffusing a potential conflict is to say, I feel like this, not you're doing this, you make me feel like that. It's I feel like that. Okay, so I'm going to give him some leeway on saying I'm not doing a good job. But it can't begin and end with the guy. Because if you've watched this channel long enough, you know how I feel about just jumping and attacking men. I don't like to do that.
So I want us to go see somebody together so that we can learn some new tools. This isn't an accusation. This isn't you bought something again. This is you coming and being vulnerable and saying, hey, I want to learn some new skills because I'm not doing a good job of communicating and I'm not doing a good job of creating an us. And I want to learn how to do that better. So would you?
The issue I've ever had with family counseling, as you know, I had family counseling on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 8. That's when we had it. It lasted about a year. God, that was hell on earth. Family counseling. No offense to those family counselors out there, but damn, that was rough. Whew, I didn't like family counseling for many, many reasons. I won't even get into it, but damn, that was hell on earth. If you're going to drag your kids to family counseling, be ready to hear the truth. If you can't hear the truth and that kills your whole night, then can the family counseling and just keep going on pretending that everything's okay. Right? Exactly. No offense to family counselors out there. And for God's sakes, don't pick a family counselor that's friends with your wife. Okay, just don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, God, I forgot what my tangent was. All right, so family counseling, they go. Oh, geez. A counseling we will go. A counseling we will go.
You join me in that. And it sounds like you're both open to therapy, both open to going to see
which is
somebody,
great.
but you're
They're both open to it? I didn't know they both were. I must have missed something in my little rant about my Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 8 family counseling. That will go down to some of the most miserable years in my entire life, and I'm happy to say that. I mean miserable, horrible, awful, hated family counseling. When the counselor is friends with your mother, God rest her soul, okay? It's just, don't do it. Don't do it.
you're there now.
Yeah, and Brandon, when it comes to that kind of spending, because it's not like, she went $50 over the food budget, right? And you're some like, brr. It's an obvious coping mechanism for her.
Like I said, it depends upon the divide. Are we crossing a pebble? Are we crossing a river? Are we crossing the ocean?
Feels good to go and get this stuff, right? So
Right.
she may even logically know the numbers and know we don't have the money, but in that moment it's like she just needs that dopamine hit. She needs something to put a band-aid on the pain that's going on in her.
And you have to decide if you as the spouse want to deal with that, because you may deal with it for years. You may deal with it for decades. You may deal with it for a very, very long time. It may take you down financially. It may keep you from having a retirement account. It's the reality of it.
Her. So I do want you to have a lot of grace and a lot of sympathy, just to be able to understand why she's doing it. It's not in spite of you. It's probably out of her own hurt and pain.
You know, as if you've watched this channel, I'm very somewhat defensive of men, because I think so oftentimes it's my personal life experience and that's all I can draw on. Okay. I think, so oftentimes men are looked at the ones that they're supposed to be the problem solvers. Right? What happens if this problem isn't solved in a year? Okay, this was 2 years ago. What happens if it led to divorce? Does that mean he failed? Does that mean he failed? What happens if the marriage is just the same way today as it was 2 years ago? Does this mean he failed? I just got issues with that. I just do.
But that's still on her. She has to know how to control that and to take that coping mechanism out, because that stuff is not going to heal.
Right.
And guess what? She may not be in a position where she's ready to heal it. This can be no different from being married to an alcoholic, to a gambleaholic. It can go that deep. It can go that bad. Yes, it can. And it is not possible for us to know in this call how deep and how bad it is. But they've been together 12 years. But it's easy to dismiss things when you're not yet married to each other. You know, the things that are cute when you're not married all of a sudden become the most annoying things, supposedly. Okay, depending upon what type of person you are. All right. So it's impossible to know from this phone call. It's absolutely impossible.
Right.
That stuff does not heal.
Well, you heal through connection, right?
Right. That's right. That's right.
And man, don't do something dumb like take out a loan against your 401k.
Yeah.
He's already borrowed against the 401k, and I can pretty much tell you that wasn't the last. I think he didn't borrow, but he used some retirement fund to pay it off. It's not the last time he's going to use the retirement fund. It's just not.
And then
Yeah.
blame her for it. I got to do this because now you're doing something stupid yourself.
But it's true. It's true. She can't handle the truth. You might as well just end the marriage now. Yes. We're paying it off because of what you did. You know, one of the things I had to learn how to do to get myself out of debt is I had to become my worst critic and judge. Carrie, you got your car repossessed because you didn't know how to buy a damn car and you bought too much of it. What'd you learn from it? What did you learn about credit card debt? You know, I understand John's trying to be nice, yada, yada, but no, I mean, sometimes you have, what is it called? A spade a spade. You have to call it what it is. Yes, we are taking out our third retirement account withdrawal because you're continually going over the budget. Sometimes you have to save yourself in a relationship. And I don't think that's always selfish. Okay? When you believe you've tried everything, when you're tired of continuing to try, when you feel like you've tried everything, when you feel like you've tried everything and you're tired, I don't think it's wrong to save yourself at some point if somebody's going to pull you down and sink you. And I don't think you need to wait till it's in such despair before you do something.
Self, and you're going to make her the enemy. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say too, Brandon. And when you elevate these kind of conversations versus like, how do I fight against this? How do I get in the nitty gritty? if you guys above it and just like when you see marriage as I want you to win. At, looking at her, I want you to win, and her to be able to look at you and say, I want you to win. Like, how do we win together?
It's not that simple. God, Rachel, I love you. Okay. But it's not that simple. You're assuming, the assumption is that you have two people who are only stepping pebbles apart from each other. I don't think, from what I'm hearing, and just from what I'm hearing in his voice, okay, this is an ocean they're crossing. And it's not as simple as sitting your honey down and going, we have this ocean that we need to, cover, and we want us both to win. Problem is if one person is checked out of the relationship, my experience, once someone's checked out, they don't come back. They can come back physically and be in your presence, but they're not mentally there. They've checked out. This is my firsthand experience. And then it's really just a matter of writing it until, somebody says, we've played happy couple enough and faked it all, yada, yada. This is just my experience. But when someone's checked out, it really doesn't come back. And this is ideal. And like I said, God love Rachel, yes, we're going to sit down. We're going to have this heartfelt, warm, cozy conversation, and we're going to come to an understanding. I think that's for people who probably aren't as far along as he is. Not to say that it is impossible. It's just my experience is it's not likely.
Right. What are the things we're shooting for? And to set a goal. You guys have a goal for the next 3 years. Maybe it's a trip you plan. Maybe it's redoing a room.
If you're with a spendaholic, if you can make it till the end of the month without them overspending, that's the goal right there. Forget goals 3 years down the road. Goals 3 years down the road are for people who have the ability to look way ahead. Those are typically reserved for your savers, not your spenders. Because the savers have the ability to delay gratification and can look 3 years ahead. That's how I was able to look 2.5 years ahead to pay off my mortgage. And everything I did for 2.5 years was in the namesake of pay off the mortgage, pay off the mortgage. It was the goal and the ability to look ahead that I stayed at the same school. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my job, yada, yada. But, it was still 10 years. I did not budge from my school till that student loan was paid. And I have no intentions of budging. I love my job. Absolutely love it. Okay. But still, I stayed at that job. Many people would not be able to go, I'm going to spend 16 years in the exact same spot till this student loan is paid. Well, yes, I did. I have the ability to look ahead. If you're with somebody who spends money like this, your goal is not to look 3 years ahead. Your goal is, can we just make it to the end of the month? And can you stay within a budget that's agreeable to both of us?
Room in your house. Like, I don't care what it is, but like have something that you guys are working towards together. I mean, if you obviously you guys have debt, so paying off debt would be a huge goal.
It's not going to be the goal if you're with a spender. That's not going to be their goal.
But have something together, because there's a level of unity that's created in marriage when you say, hey, we're gonna be one in this subject, and it's hard. It may cause conflict. There's a lot of, it rubs against what I want, what you want, but man, we're gonna push through and become that team. Like when you can.
I think if that were as easily done as it is said, less relationships would break up because of money. Yeah. If this was, I mean, I feel like I've kind of crawled down the rabbit hole of the ideal world. We are in the world of utopia.
Can elevate that conversation versus just the tactical as well, Brandon. That hopefully will bring some encouragement and exciting stuff, right? Because
it's all great stuff.
It's good.
I sense that Brandon is slightly checked out of the relationship. That's my gut hunch. And like I said, you can be there in body, but when the spirit's left, that's it. And his spirit is slowly leaving.